Hey there, welcome to Reddit Confessions. She left the thermostat on 72, the window cracked open, and my toothbrush in the trash. That's how I knew something was off before she even boarded the plane. Her note, if you could even call it that, was scribbled on the back of a takeout receipt. Gone a few days. Don't wait up. XOC. The XO felt more like a slap than a kiss. She didn't tell me she was going with someone. She didn't tell me who she was reconnecting with. But I already knew. I'd seen the name pop up on her screen before, always under Claire's Pizza, which would have made more sense if Claire delivered messages that said things like, I missed that spot under your jaw. She thought she was careful. She thought her little cover-ups were clever. What she didn't know was that I stopped sleeping weeks ago. I noticed everything. The sudden yoga classes. The locked phone. The way she started humming while getting ready. Like her body remembered being adored by someone else. But I said nothing. Not even when she packed her beige duffel and lied to my face about going off-grid. I even helped her carry it to the rideshare. 3 hours later, I got the message. Don't be jealous. That was it. No emojis. No love you. Just those 3 words like I was some bitter roommate, not the man who spent 9 years building a life with her. So I did something she didn't expect. I replied. 1 sentence. Mailbox. No explanation. No punctuation. Just a quiet fuse waiting to ignite. 30 minutes later, 15 missed calls. From her. From her friend's number. From a number I didn't recognize, probably him. They all want to know the same thing. What did I leave in the mailbox? They'll find out soon enough. Because this story, it's only just getting warm. When her 15th call came in, I was in the living room. Not pacing, not crying, just sitting there in the same spot I always sit, legs tucked awkwardly under me on the left side of our aging couch. The one she always said was too soft and sad. That couch outlasted her loyalty. The phone buzzed again, lighting up with her contact photo, an old one, the kind that made her look innocent and unreachable, laughing mid-spin in a summer dress I bought for her birthday. I used to stare at that photo and feel lucky. Now it just looked like a still from a movie where I was never the lead. I didn't answer. I wasn't going to answer. Because while she was off walking memory lane with a man who once called me bro at our wedding, I'd spent the past 2 days finally waking up. And that message I left in the mailbox? It wasn't just a metaphor. Inside, I placed a small stack of printed screenshots. Messages. Voice notes transcribed. Photos she thought she'd deleted. One of them featuring her, not an ex, holding her waist from behind while she looked into the mirror, smiling like she'd never smiled at me. And on top of that stack, I left my wedding ring. Not because I wanted to be dramatic, but because it was the only thing I had left to give her that still meant something. I sent the text, mailbox, knowing exactly how it would land. She would see it, feel her stomach twist, panic, check it, and then understand. And now she was calling, over and over, probably crying, probably desperate to explain it away. She was good at that, weaponizing guilt, making it feel like I was overreacting for reacting at all. But I wasn't overreacting. I was finally reacting. The mail was picked up at 1:38 p.m. I saw the motion alert on our doorbell cam. She came back early. Alone. Wearing a hoodie she swore she'd donated last year. The one with his college logo on the sleeve. She didn't knock. She didn't even try the door. She just stood there for 2 minutes, flipping through the papers, her fingers trembling, her jaw locked. Then she bolted. And that's when the call started. But here's the thing. She can call all she wants. The man she left behind isn't sitting on this couch anymore. What's left is someone she never bothered to see. Someone who was always too quiet to notice the fire until the house was already ash. And now? Now, I'm ready to burn every lie down to the roots. Calmly, completely. The banging started just after sunset. Not the polite kind. Not the kind you do when you've forgotten your keys or when you're trying to be forgiven. It was frantic. Ugly. The kind of knocking that doesn't ask, it demands. But I didn't move. I was still on the couch, one arm over the back, sipping cold tea like it was whiskey. I wasn't going to open that door. Not yet. I'd spent the last 3 hours replaying every moment I ignored. Every time she said, "You're being paranoid." Every time she hid behind sarcasm, smirks, or that tired phrase, "We're just friends." I remembered how she used to glance at her phone and suddenly smile, never at a message from me. How she kept saying, "I miss the old version of us," while she built something new behind my back. Funny, isn't it? How people romanticize a past they were actively destroying. Then, the doorknob turned. Rattled. It was locked, obviously, but it made my heart jump anyway. And that's when the voice came. Lowell, open the door. Please. Her voice. Small. Wobbly. Like she'd just realized the ground wasn't as solid as she thought. She tried again. We need to talk. Please, just. I stood up, but not to let her in. I walked to the kitchen instead, pulled the lasagna I'd baked last night from the fridge, and started cutting into it. If you'd asked me 3 months ago what I'd do in a moment like this, I'd have guessed tears. Maybe yelling. Or begging her to explain why I wasn't enough. But I was done playing understudy in my own life. She knocked again, quieter now. You don't understand. I didn't sleep with him. I almost laughed. That's where they always start, the technicalities. It's not about betrayal. It's about damage control. She didn't say, I'm sorry. She didn't say, I lied. Just, I didn't sleep with him. Like I should award her a gold star for restraint. I carried my plate to the table and sat down. Ate in silence while she kept knocking. And then, I swear to you, someone else opened the door. I froze. Because I hadn't unlocked it. I wasn't expecting anyone. But the deadbolt clicked. The door swung open. And there he stood. Malcolm. In my house. With my wife still on the porch behind him. She gasped. What are you doing? He looked at me, smug like always, like this was just another casual win. We should talk, he said, stepping in without permission. And I just sat there, chewing. Because Malcolm didn't know what I'd already done, and that this house, this moment, and this entire game wasn't his to play anymore. He didn't hesitate. Malcolm stepped over the threshold like this was his home now, like he'd just claimed a prize at a raffle neither of us signed up for. I didn't flinch. I didn't even put down my fork. I just watched him, calm, steady, while he closed the door behind him, leaving Callie standing outside in the hallway like some forgotten package. She didn't follow. That told me everything. He looked around like he was taking inventory. His eyes landed on the photos still on the wall. One of Callie and me at the state fair. Another one at her sister's wedding. He smirked, slow and deliberate, as if erasing me was only a matter of time. I figured it was time we cleared the air, he said, casually dragging out a chair across from me at the dining table. Man to man. I chewed my bite slowly and replied without looking at him. You broke into my house. No, Callie has a key. She gave it to me. I didn't break in. She doesn't live here anymore. He paused for the first time. His lips tightened, just slightly, but it was enough. He hadn't expected that. He thought I'd be shaken, or still begging to keep her. But I wasn't clinging to a broken future anymore. I had already set fire to the old version of me, and from the looks of it, they both showed up expecting ashes. What do you want? I asked, finally meeting his eyes. He leaned back in the chair like we were old drinking buddies and shrugged. Closure. I mean, yeah, she came to Ash Harbor. But it wasn't what you think. I laughed, actually laughed. Not because I thought it was funny, but because that line was so painfully recycled it could have been stamped with a green triangle. He raised a brow. You think I'm lying? I stood up, walked to the side cabinet, and pulled out a padded envelope. I placed it in front of him without a word. He looked confused for a moment, then opened it. Inside were copies of the same screenshots, voice notes, and photos Callie had found in the mailbox earlier that day. But this time, I added one more thing. A notarized letter from a lawyer stating that our shared bank account had been legally separated and the house title was already in the process of transfer to me alone. Malcolm went pale. You should tell her, I said, pointing to the door, that the credit card she's using is about to bounce, that her phone line is getting shut off tomorrow, that the apartment you two were planning to move into? Yeah, I canceled the deposit this morning. Her name was never on the lease. Mine was. He looked like someone had just told him Santa wasn't real. Except in this version, Santa took the sleigh, the reindeer, and left them both in the cold. You don't have the guts, he muttered. I leaned in just slightly, speaking in a calm voice. That's where you're wrong. I had nothing left to lose. And when a man has nothing left to protect, you should be terrified. Because he stops playing fair. At that moment, Callie finally pushed the door open. Her mascara was streaked down her cheeks, phone in hand, panic across her face. What's going on? Malcolm turned to her, still holding the envelope. And I just walked upstairs. Let them figure out what happens when you gamble with someone who already folded, and came back to the table with a new deck. The sound of her heels on the stairs was soft, hesitant. She wasn't running after me. No, she was creeping. Like she wasn't sure if she was allowed up here anymore. I heard her whisper my name once, twice, just outside the bedroom door. Her voice was different now. Fragile, full of that false concern people use when they realize the rope they've been tugging just snapped back. I stood by the window, watching the street lamp cast shadows on the sidewalk. Down below, Malcolm had gone back to his car. Alone. He didn't even wait for her. Whatever delusion they'd built together was cracking fast, and I was no longer the fool caught in the middle. When she finally stepped into the room, she looked smaller than I remembered. Her hair was messy, face pale, eyes rimmed in red. She opened her mouth, but I cut her off. You lied. Repeatedly. And you thought I'd just sit in this house, crying, baking your favorite lasagna, and waiting for you to come home and lie some more. I didn't sleep with him, she said immediately, clinging to that one line like it was some kind of life preserver. Stop, I said. You keep saying that like it matters. She flinched like I'd hit her. It does matter. No, I said, voice level. Because you gave him the version of you I've been begging to see for years. The jokes, the texts, the smiles. The secret getaways. The trust. That's the part that breaks a person. Not what you did in a hotel room. What you didn't do in this house. She looked like she was about to cry again, but I was done cleaning up her messes. I walked over to the nightstand, pulled open the drawer, and held up the envelope she hadn't seen yet. This, I said, is the emergency fund I built for us. Quietly. Over 5 years. Every bonus, every unspent refund, every side gig I worked while you were finding yourself. You always said we couldn't afford to travel, couldn't afford to move, couldn't afford to have kids. That's over 37 grand right there. Her mouth opened. You never told me. Because I wanted it to be a gift, a surprise. But you gave your loyalty to someone else, and now I get to choose who benefits from what I built. She stepped forward, voice trembling. Lowell, I made a mistake. I thought he understood me better. But I was wrong. He left me out there. He didn't even try to come upstairs. I gave her a long, quiet look. Of course he didn't. He was never supposed to stay. You were just his remember when, his nostalgia fix. But I was the present, the future, the one who carried the load. Her chin quivered. Can we try again? I shook my head. No, we can't. She stared at me like she didn't recognize who she was looking at. Maybe she didn't. Maybe, for the first time in our entire relationship, she was finally seeing me. Not the pushover. Not the quiet man in the background. But the one who got tired of being stepped on and learned to step away. I'm not throwing your stuff out, I said. You've got until the weekend. After that, I'm changing the locks. And the name on the mailbox. She stood there frozen, like a glitching statue. And then, with nothing left to say, I left her in the room and walked outside. Into the air, into the night, into the life that was finally mine again. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was sad. That part had passed, or maybe died. What kept me up was the strange calm I felt. Like I was walking through a burned-down house and realizing I didn't want to rebuild it. I sat in the garage most of the night, not doing anything. Just sitting in the car, engine off, keys in my lap, breathing in the silence that used to be filled with her shouting at podcasts or slamming cupboards when things didn't go her way. At 2:41 a.m., my phone buzzed. Just once. A video message. No text, no caption, just the thumbnail. A shaky, dim-lit image of what looked like the inside of her cousin's guest room. I almost didn't open it. But something in me said I should. I tapped the screen. At first, there was only blurry motion and muffled crying. She was alone, talking to the camera like it was her diary. And that's exactly what it was, a confession, or maybe a last-ditch attempt at rewriting the narrative. I messed everything up, she whispered, face blotchy, eyes hollow. I thought Malcolm would fight for me, but he didn't. I was just convenient. I used to think Lowell was boring, but really, he was stable. He was kind. And I made fun of that. I made fun of someone who would have given me the world. I should have felt satisfaction watching her fall apart. But all I felt was tired. It was too late. There was no thrill in hearing what I'd always hoped she'd say. Because now it meant nothing. Her words weren't love. They were grief. Not for losing me, but for realizing she gambled and lost everything. Then, midway through the video, her phone buzzed. She looked down and muttered, "Wrong person." The video stopped abruptly. That's when it hit me. She hadn't meant to send it to me. She meant to send it to him. A second later, another notification popped up. "Sorry, that wasn't for you." I didn't reply. There was no point. I sat there in the dark, letting her mistake hang heavy in the air. Because that message, that raw, emotional dump, wasn't meant to make things right between us. It was meant to guilt him into taking her back. And I'd just been the unintended recipient of her desperation. It felt poetic, in a way. All this time, she thought she could control the story. But in one accidental message, she exposed her truth, that she never chose me. Not really. She only ran back when her plan B walked away. By morning, I had already dropped the final documents at the lawyer's office. No drama, no scenes, just signatures and silence. At noon, her mother called me. That part shocked me. "Lowell," she said softly, "I know you don't owe me anything, but I wanted to tell you something." I stayed quiet. She told me about the video, about everything, and I just wanted to say, "I'm sorry." We raised her to chase after sparks, but we never taught her how to appreciate a steady flame. There was a long pause. "She needs help," her mom added. "Not from you, but real help." I nodded, even though she couldn't see it. "I hope she gets it," I said, and I meant that. But it wouldn't be from me. Not anymore. The package showed up 2 days later. No return label. No note. Just my name scribbled across the top in sharp black marker, in handwriting I hadn't seen in nearly a decade. I stared at it for a long minute, still in my work hoodie, coffee going cold on the porch rail. For a second, I thought it might have been from her. Another twisted attempt to stir something. But the way the letters curved, it wasn't Callie's. It was his. Not Malcolm. Worse. Gavin Rusk. You won't recognize that name, but it meant something to me. Something deep and bitter. Gavin was the first man Callie cheated on me with, before we were even married. She swore it was a mistake, something that happened during one of our off periods in the early days. I was stupid enough to believe her. Or maybe just too spineless to confront it. Gavin vanished after that, blocked on everything. I never heard from him again. Until now. I brought the box inside, set it on the table, and stared at it like it might explode. Then I opened it. Inside were a few photos, printed ones, not digital. Old. Too old to have come from anything recent. One was a picture of Callie at a party, sitting on someone's lap. Gavin's, obviously. Another was of her wearing a shirt I never owned, in a house I'd never been in, smiling like she had no regrets. There was also a note, handwritten. "Thought you should have known the truth back then. Sorry for the late delivery." She told me she was single. Bet she told you I disappeared on her. Just wanted you to know, it wasn't because I wanted to. It was because she told me you were abusive, that you broke things. I believed her, man. For a while. But then I met someone who knew you. Told me the real story. She played both of us. Thought you deserved the receipts. Gee. My stomach turned cold. I sat back in the chair, holding the photos like they were dripping poison. All that time, I thought Gavin was just some smooth-talking lowlife who'd taken advantage of her during one of our low points. But the truth? She'd smeared me to him. Lied. Framed me as dangerous to push him away and keep me in place. The ever-loyal Lowell, the safe option. I checked the postmark. It had been mailed 3 days ago, before she even sent that late-night video. So now I had proof. Not just of the recent betrayal, but of the years of manipulation. The way she weaponized sympathy to rewrite history. I remembered every time I apologized for things I hadn't done, trying to be the better man she kept demanding. All while she was controlling the narrative like a seasoned playwright. I put the photos back in the envelope. I wasn't going to burn them. I wasn't going to scream. I was going to store them, quietly, neatly, because closure doesn't always come in flames. Sometimes it comes in facts, in unshakable proof, in knowing you weren't crazy all those years you felt something wasn't right. Later that night, she texted again. "I'm thinking of moving back in with my mom. Just for a little. I understand if you want to keep the house. Let me know." No apology. No reference to the past. Just that slow, calculated shift from betrayal to logistics. She thought we were in the phase where we politely divide what's left. But she had no idea what just arrived on my doorstep, and what I was about to do with it. She showed up one last time, early on a Saturday, without warning, without makeup, holding a coffee in each hand like that could undo years of damage. I opened the door because I wanted it to end on my terms. Not hers. Not in chaos. Not in silence. But in truth. She stepped inside like she was still allowed to. Her eyes scanned the living room, stopping on the empty walls and packed boxes. I'd spent the last week preparing for a fresh start, and the absence of her in every corner was intentional. No wedding photos. No shared memories. Just space, mine now. I got your message, she said softly. I didn't send one, I replied, and she looked confused until I dropped the envelope on the table. Gavin's letter. The photos. The one story she couldn't rewrite. She didn't speak for a long time. Just stood there with that familiar mix of shame and panic, like someone watching the stage collapse under their own performance. I didn't think he'd keep those, she whispered. That's the problem, I said. You never thought anything would stick. She reached out, like she wanted to explain, or maybe beg, but I stepped back. Not in anger, just with clarity. I'm not angry anymore, Callie. I'm free. Her hand dropped. You don't get to define this, I added. Not what you did, and not how it ends. She nodded, blinking fast, then quietly turned and walked out the door. No more pleading. No more games. Just silence. And that, somehow, was the loudest piece I've ever heard. 3 weeks later, I handed the keys to the realtor and drove out of the neighborhood. Not running, just ready. I moved into a small place across town. Nothing fancy, just quiet, clean, new. I've started running again, cooking real food. I even joined a local book club, something she used to mock me for. It's mostly older folks and one guy named Russ who wears too much cologne, but they listen when I talk, and that's more than I had for years. And last weekend, I met someone. Nothing dramatic. Just 2 cups of coffee, a bookstore, and a woman named Elise who asked more questions than she answered, and somehow made silence feel safe again. So yeah, maybe I didn't get the apology I wanted, but I got something better. I got myself back. Thanks for sticking through this entire story with me. Sometimes healing doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with quiet mornings, clear decisions, and choosing yourself. Finally, if you've ever had to rebuild after betrayal, share a historical moment or personal turning point in the comments. Something that changed your life more than you expected. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more real stories, right here on Reddit Confessions.